Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's MacklinGaming, and I've been hearing so much discourse online, especially from like other YouTubers and people on Twitter that are saying like, do video games suck now? Are all modern video games trash? And sheesh, I mean, I've been having a good time lately. I don't know about you guys, but there have been tons of good games that have come out. But on the other hand, I do understand the complaints, and I see a lot of the craziness that's gotten into video games in the AAA space. And there definitely are some garbage games that have come out with some really bad business models and all that stuff recently. So I just want to discuss about this today and share my opinions and my thoughts. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so I know there's been a lot of complaints about modern video games, and I see the complaints, I understand them. As far as I would go, I would say, live service games taking over the modern day, and, microtransactions and games like Fortnite, which became wildly popular, have changed the model for how video games are made and what kind of games they want to make out of it. For instance, you had the team who made all the Batman Arkham games, the trilogy of games that came out 10, 15 years ago that were all amazing. Everybody loved them. And then, their publisher forced them essentially to make a live service game. It took them 8 years to make, almost 9 years. And it came out, it's Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, and it's trash. I don't think anyone plays that game anymore. If we check the concurrent players, it wouldn't be very high. So you got a single player studio converted into a live service studio to make a live service game, and that was just a nightmare, which you could see coming from a mile away. And I also think in the modern day there have been games that have come out that are just trying to force an agenda onto you and force you to think a certain way by the characters and the dialogue that they create. And all of a sudden I thought I was playing a fantasy game or a sci-fi game, but now we've got real world political agendas or social agendas in these games, and it's I don't want to see that when I'm playing a game. I want to play a game to escape from the real world, and now we've got these real world issues that people are always arguing about, and now they're forced into games by developers. It's crazy, I think. So I do see the problems there with those kind of games. I won't point too many fingers. Concord. Oh, what was that? Anyway, there's studios like Ubisoft who are also trying to push things too far, it seems, in certain directions that are just it's not enjoyable. Video games are supposed to be art, and they're now being used as a vehicle for to make people think a certain way, and that takes away dramatically from the art form that is video games. And so I just try to stay away from all that crap. So do I really think modern video games suck? Well, there's been so many games that I've played within the last year, the last 2 years, that are just incredible games. And if you notice on my channel, I'll stick to mostly single player games. And because of that, I've been having a great time, it seems. I most of the single player games I play. If you go back even 2 years to Elden Ring, I think that's one of the best generational defining games you can play. And I know technically it does have online, so that's good. That's even more to my argument that it's not just single player games that are still great, but honestly, it's mostly single player. It was just game changing at the time and industry changing, and that was only 2 years ago. And last year we had Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda, we had Final Fantasy 16. It's not the best Final Fantasy game by any means, but it's still a great video game. When you play it, it's very enjoyable to play. I mean, last year was 2023, and I remember the discourse was that 2023 is one of the best years in video game history. So how can we have one of the best years in gaming and also modern video games suck? Well, like I mentioned, there are a couple that we know of that are trash, and I think all the Call of Duties that come out are no good. Maybe Black Ops 6 will turn that around for them, but let's jump to this year, 2024. I'm gonna name almost 10 games that I've played this year that I think are great games. Not just good, I think they're outstanding games. So I played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Then I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Unbelievable. Then I played Dragon's Dogma 2. Great game. not the best, but it's really fun open world game. Shorter than I expected it to be. Then what did I play? Stellar Blade. That game blew my mind with the soundtrack and everything. Like, what a stylish action game. That came out of nowhere. That is a sensational game. And then what? Elden Ring DLC. That's almost a full game in itself. What am I on? 5, 6? And then there's Black Myth Wukong. Super difficult game, but another awesome single player game with like no bullshit in there. And then there's Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Another super enjoyable game. And now Metaphor ReFantazio. And like, oh my gosh, I can go on and on about how many great games have come out in 2024 that I've played personally. Also Dragon Ball, Sparking Zero. I think everybody's loving that game. That's a multiplayer game as well. So, you know, they're not all bad out there. Like, it's been great this year and last year. So where's all the hate coming from? It's definitely, I think, coming from those games that are those multiplayer focused, you know, MMOs. They just want your money, the microtransactions. You can get a skin for like $60 or like a mount, you know, for like $100. It's like, that's crazy. Like, I understand that's crap, but that's not all the games. That's not the whole industry. You know, games are taking longer to make, so that's part of it. Like, you're not going to see games coming out as often, but still, it seems like every year is pretty stacked up. Like, I can't decide what's going to be game of the year this year. There's been so many great games. So I really do think gaming is in a good place right now. And, you know, if we even look ahead to the future, what games are going to come out that I'm really interested in? We've got Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. That should come out in December, barring any delays. And like, that looks like a great single player game. You've got Pokemon Legends ZA coming out. I think this could potentially be a great game from Game Freak, who just suffered horrible hacks, you know, to their company. And ooh man, some weird stuff came out about that, but that's not for this video. Anyway, I think they can still keep it together and make a great Pokemon spin-off game in Legends ZA. You know, we've got Grand Theft Auto 6 coming up. Hopefully that comes out next year. That would be monumental if it does, you know. They're not going to hold back. I know it's going to be an awesome game without any agenda or any crap in there. So there's so many games to look forward to in the future. Monster Hunter Wilds coming out in February, like very soon. So I'm still very optimistic and positive. As you can tell, this channel's mostly a positive channel. I don't like to be too crazy and controversial. You know, the one time I did that, I got destroyed in the comments and dislike ratioed into oblivion. I've also heard the discussion about how people complain about 30 FPS games. You know, they want 60 games on console. And on PC, they better be able to do 120 frames per second, you know? But like, if we look back at retro gaming, I know everyone's saying video games these days suck. All I do is play old games. Well, old games run at like 20 FPS, like no joke. Ocarina of Time, my favorite game ever. It's one of the best games ever. It still runs at like 20 frames per second. I know some people can't even handle that. I can, it's fine. It looks good on an old CRT on the Nintendo 64, but you know, what old games are you gonna play? You're gonna play the PS3, Xbox 360 era? Games are trying to target 30 frames per second, and they're dropping all over the place to like into the 20s, sometimes the teens, like unplayable frame rates in those old games, you know? So have fun with that. But no, really, I do play a lot of old retro games, and it doesn't bother me too much. I am a very nostalgic person, so when I play in that way, I just enjoy the nostalgia and like thinking back to the time when I was like first playing Skyrim on the Xbox 360, you know, or first playing Zelda on the N64. But yeah, old games are great, but new games are like, you know, even more fluid and polished. Not all of them, obviously, but you know, Stellar Blade was the most flawless, like 60 frames per second I've experienced. And Metaphor is holding up just as well at 60 frames per second for another big RPG. So there's just a lot more cleaner games coming out at higher frame rates. And I see that's a big complaint for a lot of people. So, you know, I think the modern day checks that box as well. But anyways, that's just me ranting off about this stuff, because I do see the problems in modern games, like multiplayer games, you know, but I do also love the single player games that have been coming out that I've been playing, and you know, I don't think those are going to let up anytime soon. I think the pendulum's starting to swing back to single player games, and people, you know, are going to abandon those MMOs and those live service games because they just eat up your time, and not all of them can hold a large concurrent player count and all that. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you agree with what I'm saying. Let me know what you think about the state of video games in 2024. Do they suck or not? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.